Today, I dropped something.
Thank God.
A dog says hello. And I introduce the Black Pearl.
This is the Black Pearl.
What's good? It's the Hunter Hoffman back with insane content! In this video, we reassemble the engine of the Mini. The big question is, have we fixed it? Let's quickly find out.
Alright, so while we wait for the engine paint to be delivered, our next trick is going to be to clean up the engine. And for that, we're going to use the Black Pearl. So let me show you the Black Pearl, ladies and gents. This is the Black Pearl. I mean, let's go. So with this, we're gonna vacuum out the stuff that fell into the pistons, and we're also gonna clean up the eaten up sound deadening or isolation from the engine bay. Not sure what happened there. Here, let me give you a closer look on this. Yeah, not sure what happened there. It looks like a bird tried to make a nest out of it or something. Here as well. It's pretty gross. Don't want to have that lying around in your engine bay, so we're going to vacuum out all the deteriorated pieces and just, you know, give it a bit of a cleanup, as well as the stuff in here. Then we're also going to give this a clean. As you can see, some debris fell in the pistons, in the cylinders on the pistons. And the pistons have quite a bit of carbon buildup, so we're going to clean that as well, or at least try to as best as possible. Obviously, we're also going to give the engine block a clean. So first we're going to remove this, I think. It's a bit in the way. Alright, so I think these are 10mm bolts. Yep, there we go. That's better. Alright, so I kind of want to do this one-handed to show you as good as possible. So carefully remove this thing. Fire up the Black Pearl. Oh yeah. So we're going to make use of this tiny extension. Oh yeah. So next up, we're gonna clean the engine surface, and we're obviously gonna mask off these holes in which the push rods reside, because that's where the oil will flow through. We obviously don't want any contamination in the holes of the push rods. Yeah, now before I forget, we're first gonna vacuum out the deteriorated sound deadening. Alright, guess my car will sound a bit more alive after this, as there's less deadening, obviously. Okay, so there's this trick, which I totally didn't find on the internet, in which you get yourself a bit of foam strip, and then you get a piece of tape, like so, put it in the middle like so, and then hold this together, form a little ball. I'd say this is big enough. I don't have any scissors on me, so I'll just use the blade. Alright, so now we've got one of these bad boys, and I'll show you, I'll take you with me on this very journey. So the thing is here is that we can plug up these oil feed holes like so. All right, so I'm gonna fill the rest of the holes and be right back. All right, so as you can see, I managed to get the middle two cylinders to top dead center with the help of a ratchet and the crankshaft. Yeah, so I haven't done this before, so I'll just carefully clean this with some brake cleaner to remove the residual oil and then see from there. I'm not going to directly spray it onto the cylinders. I obviously don't want any brake cleaner falling down the cylinder walls. It's my first time. Not sure if this is the correct way of doing so, but we'll see what happens. In the end, we are going to flush the coolant and the oil, so I'm not too worried about stuff falling in there. But again, I want to make it as clean as possible. Alright, so eventually we went from this to it getting too dark to film. So as you can see, I have just removed the last stud of the engine block. So that provides for a bit more space to also sand it clean, if you know what I mean. I already cleaned up two of the pistons. Yeah, so next time we'll be continuing, well, not next time, because this will be another episode. No, this will be in the same episode. So whatever is to come is in the same episode, which you'll probably see right now. Correct, that time is now. So it's actually the next day, and we'll just continue on cleaning this up, and then in the end continue with the assembly of the whole engine. Okay, so the camera cut out for some reason, so I removed these towels, then moved the pistons down a bit, and now I'm in the process of cleaning the bit of carbon buildup that's still surrounding the cylinders here on the top. I've already done this one, now I'm working on this one. As you can see, there's still a bit of carbon buildup. As you can see, it does clean up nicely in the end. All right, so one final vac real quick. I've already vacuumed these two, so now we're gonna crank the engine and move the pistons up. And that's top dead center. So now we're gonna fill up these cylinders. You wanna see how that looks like? Looks like a healthy engine block to me. But then again, what do I know? We're gonna clean these bad boys up, and then we're gonna give the surface of the engine block a quick clean and a quick sand. We're gonna use the wire wheel. Now I kind of want to see if the engine is still as straight as an arrow. I know this isn't the most scientific way again, but still. Now I'm not going to sand it because I have sanded the cylinder head, and I think it's very hard to sand considering you have these oil feed holes here. You don't want to get any sanding dust in there obviously, and with these plugs in here, well, it's obviously impossible to sand evenly. Again, I have sanded the cylinder head a tiny bit, and looking at this, I think that's a relatively clean surface. It's straight in my opinion. These holes won't form an issue because the gasket will cover the rough parts of the holes. So the sealing between the engine block and the cylinder head won't become an issue because again, these holes are wider than these coolant passages. That won't form an issue. So I'm going to clean this up, make sure there's no dirt and debris on there, make it as clean as possible. So let's give the surface a bit one more clean. Do you know what? For my purposes, this is fine. You know, it's not a racing engine. It's not an engine with like 800 horsepower. Here, let me show you what we have right now. All right, guys and girls. So I made sure the studs are clean. Cleaned them all up. So now we're going to install these studs again. We've got 5 in the front of the engine and 4 at the back of the engine. Ooh, they're hot. They've been lying in the sun. Oh geez, these are really hot actually. And there we have it. All right, before putting this back in, I'm gonna give it a quick coat of paint. That's better. So yeah, turned out pretty nice. And yes, I've cleaned it with brake cleaner, obviously. All right, boys and girls, it's time to pick up where we left off, and it's now time to install the new head gasket. So as you can see, it says top there, meaning that that side obviously would need to be up. So we're gonna do that now. As you know, we cleaned this thoroughly last time. There we go, look at that. All right, so as you may remember from last time, these push rods weren't able to fit in the cylinder head. So you would have to put these, which I have oiled up, obviously. We're gonna put these in the engine like so. And now we're gonna get the cylinder head and install it all in one piece. All right, so we're gonna do this with a bit of trial and error, I suppose. There we go. All right, so after loosely fitting the cylinder head, I note that there's still a bit of space in between here because the push rods keep it in the air. So we're gonna tighten it now in the sequence that it's supposed to be tightened in. So initially we need to torque them down to 34 Newton meters, And afterwards, we need to torque them down with an additional 34 Newton meters, adding up to 68 Newton meters in total. The rocker shaft bracket nuts will only be torqued down once to 25 Newton meters. Alright, so that's our cylinder head torqued down. Alright, so now we're going to fit the exhaust manifold back to the car. Like so. Alright, so after reinstalling the exhaust manifold, we're now going to go ahead and do the valve clearances of the valves. So for that, we're going to remove these spark plugs real quick, and then let's get started. Alright, so what we'll be needing is a feeler gauge, a flat screwdriver, and a 1/2-inch socket wrench. We'll also be using this 30-free socket to rotate the engine. Alright, so for this, we're going to rotate the engine clockwise, and then we watch for the valves being compressed. So far this one is getting compressed, and we're going to go all the way until it's at its lowest point, which is right about here. These two are now at their most compressed point. Alright, so then you have something called the rule of 9. You count up until the compressed valve. In this case, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you start over again until your total is 9. So we went to 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 5 plus 4 equals 9. So this is the valve we're now going to adjust. So the clearance we're looking for is 0.3 of a millimeter, which is this one. The clearance I'm talking about is the space between the rocker arm and the end of the valve. So you're looking for a slight resistance. This is a bit loose in my opinion. This isn't too bad, but it's a bit too loose. So what we'll do, we're going to put our socket like so, then our screwdriver like so, then we're going to break it loose like so, and then we adjust the rocker arm so that we get a very tight clearance. So now I'm going to tighten the rocker arm a bit until there's a slight resistance coming up. Now I can feel a slight resistance. Alright, so once you're happy with your resistance, carefully redo the rocker arm nut like so. Then check again if there's still... Yeah, there we go, that seems good to me. Try not to move the screwdriver anymore. There we go. Then double check again. Double check again. That's not good. It's double check or check again, not double check again. Anyway, so as you can see, this is pretty good in my opinion. All right, so as you can see, the other valve that is compressed is number 2. So we're going to apply the rule of 9 again. So 1, 2, then we would need 7 more. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So now we're going to do the same trick on this rocker arm and valve, and then repeat for all of them. Alright, so those were all the valves adjusted. So now it's, well, time to put everything back together. So yeah, enjoy the show. Alright, so these are the rings for the intake manifold. There we go, that's it. It's 1, it's 2. In order to get this vacuum hose back, I had to remove the this bolt of the heat shield so that I can bend the heat shield a bit back, like so. For f***'s sake, I forgot one here as well. Oh, I guess that means loosening up the exhaust manifold as well. Right, so let me grab a washer, like so. That is tight, bro. That's not going anywhere. Then I believe this bolt should go here. But as I'm not sure, I'm now gonna rewatch my own video to see how I did that back then. So I'll be right back. All right, so I was right. This bolt does belong over here. Then this vacuum line. Next up, another vacuum line, like so. All right, so let's get this clip over here, like so. Then I believe it's time for the manifold to get in. There we go. Okay, we have to be a bit careful here with all the cables. I'm not sure if you can still see this. Yeah, you can see this pretty well. Let's get some bolts up in this. Okay, so then for all the vacuum hoses, one down here, like so. Then this clip, and this clip, and then loads of cables. 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, 6. Then for this fuel hose, vacuum hose, whatever this is, I'm not sure. I'm not sure in any of this. All right, so then for reconnecting these fuel lines, the return hose and the fuel line, I can see the hard fuel lines over there. And luckily they're marked green and yellow, so there's no confusion about what hose goes where. There we go. Like so. Then we're going to install this bracket again. Then connect these wire harnesses back again. Then the throttle cable, like so, that is. All right, so now for the valve cover. So as I said, these can go on hand tight, like so. I think we can then reconnect this coolant hose along with the bracket.
All right, so I just had dinner, so it's a bit darker now already. So yeah, what I was saying was the bracket and the coolant hose. So first we'll be installing the bracket, which is apparently supposed to go somewhere. Oh right, I would first need to install the coil pack distributor thing. We'll quickly do that then, before it's getting dark. It's getting dark again, so dark. All right, so this is gonna go in like so. All right, so now we can install the bracket. All right, like so. Then we can put this thing back, like so. Gotta be quick, because it's getting dark, isn't it? Yeah, it's getting a bit dark already. Let's continue with the air filter. Make sure that all these connectors are connected properly. All the vacuum hoses as well. Looks pretty good to me. All right. All right, so let's quickly do the water pump pulley. All right, so that's that. Let's do the alternator real quick. All right, so that's the alternator done. It's still getting darker and darker. Do you think we can pull one more off? Maybe the auxiliary belt? All right, so I forgot to thread this one in, which is now giving me a hard time. But we're losing time, people. We're losing against darkness. So I'm probably going to call it a day. Oh, here we go. Now it's finally threading in. But I'm probably going to call it a day, and we're going to come back tomorrow and finish this. Yeah. All right, so it's the next day. We've got light again. We're going to continue with installing the auxiliary belt. So first we would need to loosen the belt tensioner over there with a 14mm socket. Then we would need to undo the tension. Then we're going to tilt it all the way up so that there's room for the auxiliary belt to go on the pulleys. Not the police, the pulleys. I'm wrong. This thing should go all the way down, of course. My bad. All right, so this should provide for enough space to get it on, like so. Now we can move the tensioner up again and then tighten it. That'll do. So now we're going to tighten this again, like so. That's perfect. All right, so now let's continue with the cooling system. Okay, done. You've seen me done this multiple times, so yeah. There you go. All right, so what's next? We're going to do the spark plugs and the leads for it now. All right, so that's the spark plugs and spark plug leads done. All right, so that's all there is to it, I believe. I think it's time to start up the car. First, however, we're going to remove the fuse of the fuel pump to make sure that the engine turns over correctly. And afterwards, we'll install the fuse again, and then we'll start it up for real. All right, so we removed the fuel pump fuse. Now we're going to connect the battery jumper and see if it turns over correctly. All right, so the battery jumper is connected. We've got power. Now we're in neutral. Good that I checked that. Can hear lots of stuff happening. Let's see what happens. Okay, that's good, I guess. Let's try that one more time.
All right, I think we're ready for our first start. So let's put this thing back, like so. Yeah, and then let's try again. Here we go. Oh my God, it lives! Oh my goodness, it lives, people. Unbelievable. That's a bit of oil burning. That's fine. It's idling a bit high. That has something to do with the throttle adjustment. Alright, I'm going to turn it off now and then do some throttle adjustment. It was quite loose already in there, so I'm not sure if it has to do something with the cable adjustment, to be honest. Here, look at this. This is relatively loose already. So I'm not sure if it is actually the problem, that high idle. I didn't miss a connector or anything. Probably something to do with the throttle body. Can't see another explanation, to be honest. O2 sensor is connected. Fuel doesn't seem to be leaking. So I'll just quickly take it off the jacks so that we can get a good oil reading. That has settled now. Alright, so now that the car is level and has settled for a bit, let's check the oil level. Yeah, that's slightly above minimum. Alright, so that might need a bit of oil. Alright, so let's fill it up with oil a bit. So after checking, I think there might be a air leak somewhere, or the throttle body, it must be sticking. So I'm not sure which one it will be. However, I'm gonna apply some WD-40 to see if that helps. So that's here and there. And I believe all the lines, all the vacuum lines, all the connectors are all connected. So I don't think the problem is to be found there. And the throttle body doesn't appear to be sticking. I'll quickly mount the air filter back on. It could also well be that one of the sensors went bad. Let's first start up the car. Alright, so it still seems to be idling quite high. Too high? Well, it's high, but it's not that high. But there might be a vacuum leak somewhere. Just don't know where exactly. Alright, well, I want to see the engine get up to temperature, so I'm going to fill it with water to begin with. Hey, wait a minute. Now it seems to idle normally. Interesting. Anyway, I'm going to just fill up the... Oh, that's actually pretty cool. It's interesting that it idles normally now. I mean, this was the plan all along, obviously. It's just funny how things work out. It doesn't sound too happy, to be honest. Yeah, it doesn't sound happy at all. Okay, so it's not that happy still. Alright, let's think this through. Interestingly enough, it seems to run normally now. So I have filled up the coolant. I want to see how that coolant reacts. It seems to idle a bit high again. Alright, so the oil has almost burned off here, which is nice. Alright, so first we're going to retorque the cylinder head, and then we're going to see if it still leaks exhaust gases. Does anybody know what this is, though? Alright guys, so the engine has now been cooled off, so now it's time to retorque the engine. We're going to do that by first undoing the first cylinder head nut, like so, and then retorque it to spec. Alright, so that was all the nuts torqued again. Now we're going to reinstall the valve cover again, and then do another startup. It's getting back alive. Let's first install this bracket though. Alright, so now for the valve cover. All right, there we go. So now let's try this again by starting the car. I believe we're ready. It isn't idling perfectly, to say the least. So it could well be that one of these vacuum lines or sensors is, well, kaput. See, that's a whole different idle than what just happened, weirdly enough. But we're just going to run it up to temperature so that we can do the CO2 test, which everybody is looking out for, obviously. All right, let me grab the CO2 test. All right, so we have our fluid here. Then we're going to open up the expansion tank. Then we're going to insert this in here, like so. That's a tight fit. And now we wait. Alright guys, so as you can see, we still have exhaust gases coming through the coolant system. So that's bad news. So it's, well, actually back to the drawing board and think of what we're going to do next. Classic minis. Alright, so when I turned off the engine just now, the whole thing just exploded with hot water coming out of the expansion tank all over the floor. I'm not sure what that is or how that happened. But the moment I turned the car off, it happened. Like it came splashing out. Anybody has any idea what this is?
Alright, so that was it. As you can see, there's still some trouble to be taken care of. However, we do not give up. We power on. Me, you, all my subscribers. We're at like almost 3 million. It's crazy. So if anyone has any ideas or suggestions, do let me know. Next time we'll be back on the M2, and hopefully the next time we'll be fixing the Mini. Guys, thank you so much for watching, and see you next time!